We're deeply grateful for your recognition. This is something we only wildly dreamed of many months ago when I submitted our application. And I'm pleased to have our team represented today by Professor Mbofu, what's your name? Precious Perry, my wife Jody Butterfield, who have been the backbone of it all. I'm sure you understand they're the people that make things really happen, not me. It is unfortunate in these events there has to be a winner, because it implies losers, and frankly I didn't see any losers. I think the task of the judges must have been incredibly high, difficult, and I would love to, on behalf of our whole team, wish the others, like I can't call them losers, because they're all... they all are working for the same end, a better world. For us working in Africa daily, the problems are very real. People are fighting and dying and over diminishing water, grassland, etc. People are used to herd livestock with sticks, literally herding them with AK rifles now. So we couldn't dabble much in theory. We needed a practical way and quickly that an ordinary person, a family, a community could begin to put that right, begin to make better decisions in their life that would improve their environment, because ultimately everything rests on that. And this we demonstrated, I believe, at Dibingo Mirage, Operation Hope, and your judges recognized. Livestock are almost the most universally condemned thing in the world today for their role in desertification. And it goes back, I'm told, you can read this in ancient Hebrew texts of the people blaming the pastoralists for forming the deserts. Now 50 years ago, when I first spoke to my fellow scientists and said we had no other tool other than livestock with which to reverse desertification, it was understandable somewhat why I was brushed aside as a charlatan, clearly not a scientist, and so on. And fortunately for me, I had learned through my own work that I was wrong, because I had condemned livestock, frankly, more than even the most fanatical environmentalists in the United States had, because I could see them raping my country behind me, and saw no point in not solving that problem. I was literally prepared to shoot ranchers, because I believed in the future of my country so much. And I found I was wrong, and I found that I loved the land more than I hated wildlife, hated cattle, and changed my whole approach as I got more and more solid scientific knowledge. Your recognition today is testimony to the open minds of your judges when we know the antagonism to livestock. Perhaps it's testimony also to the increasing acknowledgement that I'm sensing globally that what we're doing today simply isn't working, and we desperately need new thinking. So many of today's well-meaning and costly efforts to address biodiversity loss, desertification, climate change, poverty, social breakdown, violence, increasing drought and flood, and economic chaos are really merely rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, and that is tragic. Through our work in Zimbabwe, we submitted what amounted to proof of concept of holistic management in action, something we could ensure through land that we actually controlled the management on and could demonstrate, and that we did, demonstrated the reversal of biodiversity loss, desertification. Our team there, in my mind, is addressing the gravest problems that have ever faced humanity and still do today, and it's good that it's in Africa because it provides a microcosm of the global problems arising from environmental damage. Poor land, meaning poor people, social upheaval, breakdown, violence, economic turmoil, and so on, eventually to the breakdown of civilizations. And historically, as we all know, more than 20 civilizations have already failed through environmental degradation in all areas of the world, and now it's threatening all of us globally. Now, the central problem in this is that biodiversity loss, desertification, and climate change are viewed in reductionist science as three extremely serious but totally separate issues. When viewed through the lens that Bucky Fuller viewed things, the universe, in other words, through a holistic worldview, we recognize that they are one inseparable issue. To put that very simply, if we lose the life-covering material that covers soil, okay, if we don't lose that, desertification doesn't occur. If we lose that, desertification begins to occur. And when you lose the life-covering vegetation, litter, dead plant material on 1 square meter of soil, as any gardener knows, you change the microenvironment. It gets hotter at midday, colder at dawn, etc. By the time you're changing the microenvironment on single square meters the size of the western United States, where I guarantee you over 50% of the soil is bare, or the whole of North Africa, you are changing macroclimate. Common sense 101. Why there's any debate in the world about whether humans are creating climate change just amazes me. Our environmental illiteracy is just astounding. It is so simple. Now, every human endeavor arguably rests on 4 foundation blocks, the life drivers of our environment and how it functions: biological community dynamics, water cycle, nutrient cycle, and solar energy flow. Now, because agriculture in its broadest sense functions on these, we need to understand that without agriculture, you cannot have a government, you cannot have a university, you cannot have an army, you couldn't have the ceremony. Agriculture is the basis of everything, and it depends on those 4 processes. And when we interfere with them as humans, as we've historically done, is when we see our civilizations fail and what we're seeing today. This is why, small and insignificant as we are in the Savory Institute and the Africa Center, I've called for a new brown revolution. In case that doesn't make sense to you, we've got fast money, fast food, slow food, green revolution, brown revolution. And why I call for a brown revolution is, frankly, any scientist can grow more green plants with technological marvels today. But to be growing more green plants on soil that is failing us and we're losing isn't the basis of anything sustained in the future. If we just look at this, I realize it's a David and Goliath struggle, because we are so insignificant, and you have people so generous and so kind as Bill Gates and the US government and everybody that's backing a new green revolution, but it's all based on reductionist science. And as I like to say to people, David won last time, God help humanity if Goliath wins this time. One statistic alone, and I'll only give you one, serves to illustrate this desperate need for new thinking as Buckminster Fuller Institute is bringing out. And that is, we Americans boast about feeding the world. We enjoy the greatest concentration of scientists the world's ever known in one nation. The greatest concentration of wealth the world has ever known in one nation. And yet if you ask most Americans what's the greatest export from the United States, they'll say grain or beef or whatever. No, it isn't. It's eroding soil. In weight and value, it outweighs and outvalues all other exports in the United States annually. When I first came to this country, the Soil Conservation Service estimated the soil leaving our croplands alone as equal to a trainload of rail cars filled with soil 116 miles long, leaving the country every day. And that ignored the greater amount of erosion from the rangelands. Now, we're not alone. The global figure is 4 tons of soil being lost down our rivers of the world for every human alive on the planet today. So if we're going to build a green revolution on that basis of a disappearing soil, we have illusions. We have got to start a brown revolution and recognize the future of humanity depends on the soil.